It's Thursday, May 29th. In the headlines, above normal activities forecast for the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. A call for a unified national approach to disaster preparedness. USF set to bring free internet access to agro parks. In business news, the Bank of Jamaica reports increase in remittances. Regionally, in Barbados, the Association of Caribbean States looking to address challenges facing the region. And in sports, Dennis Chung resigns from the Jamaica Football Federation, says he's leaving the organization in good financial standing. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says 13 to 19 storms are forecast for this year's hurricane season, which starts on June 1. Based on that and additional data, the Meteorological Service branch of the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation is predicting that for the 10th consecutive year running, the Atlantic hurricane season will experience above normal activity. According to the NOAA, this year there is a 60% chance that the activity of the season will be higher than normal. For 2025, the outlook is for 19 named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, and 3 to 5 major hurricanes, categories 3, 4, or 5. The Atlantic hurricane season will end on November 30. With the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season set to start on Sunday, June 1st, local government minister Desmond McKenzie is calling for a unified national approach to disaster preparedness. He made the call during the sectoral debate in the House of Representatives on Wednesday.
You know, when we talk negative, and we are critical about sensitive services that are offered by government, people become confused because they don't understand why we are saying this and somebody else is saying that. Madam Speaker, the question of disaster must never encounter political roadblock in this country, and I call for national unity.
Minister McKenzie labeled the government's investments as substantial in enhancing the emergency response and communication infrastructure of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM. He pointed to ongoing collaborations with the Japanese government through the JICA project, which aims to boost ODPEM's communication capabilities.
And we continue, Madam Speaker, to strengthen the organization. Last year I spoke about the JICA project, a joint project with the Japanese government to strengthen the communications capabilities of the organization. And that emergency radio system was tested during Beryl, Madam Speaker, and I must say, it worked, and I want to thank the Japanese government for its continued assistance in this program.
Minister McKenzie says all shelters island-wide are fully prepared. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is expected to address the nation next week regarding disaster readiness. Farmers across Jamaica's agro parks are set to benefit from free internet access as the Universal Service Fund, USF, moves to expand digital connectivity beyond traditional community access points. USF CEO Charlton McFarlane says the initiative forms part of a broader push to support national development through technology. He shared details about the initiative on a recent JIS think tank. Denita Rodney has the details.
Jamaica's 10 agro-parks, massive agricultural zones spanning hundreds of acres, are poised to go digital thanks to a new initiative from the Universal Service Fund, or USF. Speaking at a recent Jamaica Information Service think tank, USF CEO Charlton McFarlane said the move is in response to urgent calls for better internet coverage in these key food-producing areas.
So one of the major projects we are looking at is to partner with the agro parks. There are 10 agro parks across the island, right? And we would have started dialogue with the relevant authorities that manages these agro parks, where they have expressed to us a need for internet connection. Now, why is this a major project? One agro park is about 500 acres. No community access point. No community Wi-Fi. No single community Wi-Fi covers 500 acres. So this is a major undertaking of the USF.
The CEO further notes that equipping agro parks with reliable internet will empower farmers.
The value in that is that our farmers will now be in a position to better monitor their farms, to better track their livestock. We know we have challenges with prey larceny and stuff like that. So all of this that we are doing with providing this connectivity is geared at improving and making more efficient how our farmers are able to manage within these agri-park zones.
This initiative is part of a broader strategy by the USF to re-energize community access points, CAPs, across the island, while also expanding its mandate to support digital transformation in other sectors of government and national development.
Because we know that the internet enhances commerce. It enhances an entrepreneur's ability to advertise their goods and services and to also increase the demand for their goods and services. So, and these are just some of the few areas where we are supporting other GOJ entities, right? Whether it's in the area of social services, transportation services, or commerce. The point is that we believe that digital transformation affects all sectors, social, economic sectors, and so on.
The USF operates under the Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecommunications, and Transport. Its goal, to ensure every Jamaican has access to the tools and technology needed for development, no matter where they live. For the news on PBCJ, I am Denita Rodney.
Cultural reparation refers to the process of returning cultural property to the place of origin. On May 26, there was a historic signing of a Memorandum of Understanding between the University of the West Indies and the Institute of Jamaica for the reparation of a specimen of the giant Jamaican Galliwasp. The discussion for the reparation began in 2022. It's hoped that the display and study of the Jamaican giant Galliwasp, which was thought extinct since the 1800s, will help to educate and build the collective memory of this species that was found only on the island of Jamaica. Marlon Samuels reports.
For decades, the only known specimen of the Jamaican giant Galliwasp resided at the University of Glasgow since the late 1800s. But what do Jamaicans really know about this fascinating creature? Let's find out.
It looked like a lizard. A Galliwasp is exactly a lizard.
Isn't that like this lizard or it's from the reptile family? And I think it's up in the Blue Mountains. And persons say if it bites you and if it gets to the water before you, something's gonna happen. I'm not sure.
Galliwasp is like a beast thing.
Galliwasp. Heard the name before, but I'm not sure.
No, I don't know what a Galliwasp is. I've heard the name. I'm thinking it's a kind of wasp or something.
Galliwasp, you know, something like was stinging or something like that. Yeah, it bites near. Coming up. It's like insect, like one look like a part like that. Galliwasp. No.
Historically, records say they were found in the Black River and Westmoreland morass. The Jamaican giant Galliwasp reportedly became extinct in the 1840s after the introduction of the Indian mongoose in Jamaica. Thanks to a historic agreement, this specimen, which has been named Celeste, was repatriated to Jamaica. The Memorandum of Understanding signed between the UWI and the Institute of Jamaica is a commitment to the conservation, preservation, and promotion of Jamaica's intangible and tangible heritage.
Interestingly, when one thinks of returning of cultural items, a lizard is not what comes to mind, and I've made deliberate efforts to keep my distance. I've made deliberate efforts to keep my distance. But interestingly, the UWI, University of Glasgow MOU builds on existing partnerships with our colleagues at the Institute of Jamaica. And it places this one-of-a-kind specimen in a national fauna collection. And this MOU cements the role of museums in the region, and it supports institutions that build and promote cultural identity in all of its forms. And one of the values that we celebrate here at the university is diversity. And I think our being here today exemplifies in a real and tangible and novel way what we mean by being inclusive.
The specimen is a symbol of biodiversity conservation in Jamaica.
Celeste is not only a representation of our material history, but also a vital symbol of cultural identity. Myths and traditions abound regarding the Galliwasp. Among them, the belief that if one bites you and reaches water before you do, death is certain. I believe that with all my heart when I was growing up. The presence of this specimen offers a tangible link to our oral traditions and to the stories that make our heritage so rich, complex and vibrant.
The single repatriated Jamaican giant Galliwasp specimen is significant for the evidence it provides us of a species which is endemic and most likely extinct. One physical specimen, well documented, is infinitely more valuable than illustrations or records, especially for organisms no longer extant. So the repatriation of this specimen made it more accessible to us. We can observe this rare example of our unique historical endemic fauna as often as needed and for as long as needed without incurring large financial expenditures.
Celeste can be viewed over the next month at the museum at the University of the West Indies, Mona. Thereafter, it can be seen at the Natural History Museum at the Institute of Jamaica in downtown Kingston.
Our researchers and scientists have long worked side by side, united by a common goal to uncover and illuminate the truths of our island's evolution, enriching our collective understanding of Jamaica's past. Having Celeste as a specimen has been fondly named in our national collection represents another meaningful step in fulfilling our duty to safeguard the richness of our past, held in trust for the future.
For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
Time for the business report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, here to bring you the stories shaping the financial world and guiding your journey to smarter business decisions. Let's dive into the top headlines. The Bank of Jamaica reports that there is an increase in the remittance inflows to Jamaica. Net remittances, the difference between inflows and outflows, climbed to US $475.5 million during the period January to February this year. That is compared with US $461.4 million during the similar period last year. This was due to inflows of US $514.9 million and outflows of US $39 million during the period under review, compared with inflows of US $499 million and outflows of US $38 million. 1.1 million during the first 2 months of last year. More travelers are coming from Florida than New York to Jamaica. Satara English Byfield, CEO of PAC Kingston Airport Limited, which manages Norman Manley International Airport, reports to RJR News that Fort Lauderdale is now the top destination for air passengers departing from Kingston, Jamaica, surpassing New York for the first time. January marked a high record in arrivals, with Fort Lauderdale traffic rising 25%, nearly doubling the 14% increase seen in New York. Other major destinations include Miami, Toronto, Atlanta, London, and several Caribbean and Latin American cities. For the trading period ending May 28, 2025, these were the most actively traded stocks. Online education provider One-on-One Educational Services Limited, with 11,684,991 units traded, representing 27.65% of market sales volume. Investment firm Sterling Investments Limited, with 5,512,979 units traded, representing 13.05% of market sales volume. International food distributor Deramon Trading Company Limited, with 3,244,890 units traded, representing 7.68% of market sales volume. We now shift our focus to the Forex market rate set by the Bank of Jamaica. On May 28, 2025, the Bank of Jamaica reported US $53.47 million purchased and US $62.79 million sold by Forex traders. Forex traders earned $1.55 per dollar, selling the US at $160.04 and buying the US at $158.49. The Canadian dollar netted Forex traders $2.60 per transaction, with selling at $116.78 and buying at $114.18. The British pound yielded Forex traders $4.43 in profits, with selling at $215.67 and buying at $211.24. For our credit report tip of the day, if you have a strong credit score, you already have what many real estate investors are working hard to build: access to funding. A credit score of 680 or higher can qualify you for lower interest rates, higher loan amounts, and investment-specific financing like portfolio loans and even short-term rehabilitation loans. This isn't theory, this is real leverage that turns renters into landlords and homeowners into real estate entrepreneurs. If your goal is to create monthly cash flow, build equity, and own appreciating assets, your credit score is one of the fastest tools to get you into the game. And that wraps up today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, reminding you that every financial decision is a step toward your future. Until next time, stay focused, stay informed, and keep striving for success. See you soon.
In regional news, a new push for stronger regional ties is underway as leaders from across the Greater Caribbean gather in Cartagena, Colombia. The Association of Caribbean States is expected to adopt a key political declaration aimed at deepening cooperation in trade, sustainable development, and the protection of the Caribbean Sea. The summit marks a pivotal moment for the region as the ACS looks to turn decades of dialogue into action. CBC's Crystal Hoyt filed this report.
A new document of political declarations intended to spur action in the key areas such as trade, regional integration, sustainable development, and protecting the Caribbean Sea is expected to be adopted shortly by the Association of Caribbean States. It will be tabled during the Greater Caribbean Summit, which kicked off this week here in Cartagena, Colombia. The event marks a significant moment for high-level political dialogue and regional cooperation under the ACS. Secretary General of the ACS, Her Excellency Ambassador Naomi Espinosa Madrid, highlighted the importance of the organization in addressing regional challenges collectively.
The idea of this Greater Caribbean, it was actually created 30 years ago by CARICOM countries as a way to come closer to the countries that have Caribbean coast in the Latin countries, to put it somehow. And I think that needs to be strengthened further by making sure that we all feel like we belong to the ACS. And I think both the Latin American countries need to show their value to the CARICOM countries, and the CARICOM countries need to see themselves in the ACS. And once we obtain that, it will be really a greater Caribbean region.
The Secretary General says now more than ever, the ACS has a critical role to play, given the geopolitical tensions and tariffs.
The ACS used to be a good idea. It's now an absolute necessity, because what's happening in other countries in the north really makes us come together, and not in a confrontational way, but it's time for us to really work together to have economic integration, political integration, transport integration, digital integration, protect our Caribbean Sea, of course, which is the main focus of what we do. But it actually, to me, it provides an opportunity for us to really work together.
Heads of government of the member states will meet on Friday with the presidents of Colombia and Panama. This coverage is made possible in partnership with the ACS. Crystal Hoyt, CBC News.
Caribbean travel tourism officials in St. Lucia are hailing the Caribbean travel marketplace in Antigua and Barbuda as a major success, highlighting strong international interest and new opportunities for growth. The 3-day event helped boost St. Lucia's visibility, with officials pointing to the island's standout presence and focus on sustainable, community-based tourism. HTS News Force has more.
Tourism officials in St. Lucia are praising the 3-day Caribbean travel marketplace in Antigua and Barbuda for the exposure it provided and the valuable linkages formed with regional and international partners.
In addition to the various presentations, each country had its delegation of service providers, so they had their booths, and St. Lucia, of course, being one of those countries. I must tell you that the level of the response to our team was phenomenal.
Delegation lead Gideon Ferdinand says St. Lucia's marketing presence may have been the most robust at the event.
I think you might want to say we started in this event not just because of the presentations, but because of how the various countries in the region related to the way we sell and market our tourism products. I can tell you for sure that during the press brief, we had the CEO of SLTA, as well as the head of marketing, and of course the communications persons. All of them gave some insights, and it was well received. The international press, they had some very interesting questions.
According to Ferdinand, St. Lucia attracted significant interest from international media for its focus on sustainable and community-based tourism. He noted that these two areas, both strongly championed by the current administration, aim to encourage greater local participation and long-term ownership within the tourism industry.
We recently passed the TDA, the Tourism Development Act, and that is really something that a number of the countries in the region are very curious about. They did have a lot of questions for me on that. They want to, to find out how it works, how it works with the incentives as well as investments in tourism. I think that is a very progressive piece of work that we've done, and we're very proud of that at St. Lucia. You have countries like Jamaica and Barbados who are trying to, to pick up on it.
Ferdinand noted that the pressing issue of regional travel also formed part of the discussions.
As you would know, moving between the islands can be very frustrating in terms of the costing, and we have explored some other options. In fact, we have to charter a flight to Antigua on Sunrise Airways. And of course, since the departure of Liat or the changes in Liat, there still remain some regional travel challenges.
Numerous St. Lucian service providers were also present, showcasing their products and services through dedicated booths aimed at strengthening ties with established markets and exploring new opportunities. Solasha Alfred, HTS News Force.
We headline our sports report with football news. Outgoing General Secretary of the Jamaica Football Federation, JFF, Dennis Chung, says he's leaving the organization with a secure financial future. The JFF announced Mr. Chung's resignation on Wednesday on its Instagram page, noting that Mr. Chung steps down this Saturday. He joined the JFF in November 2022 with the significant responsibility of helping the organization overcome its very public financial challenges and streamline operations, which had faced intense scrutiny following notable logistical errors involving national teams. In its statement, the JFF says Mr. Chung successfully met his objectives, including several milestones that had eluded the Federation for over 20 years. Among his achievements highlighted were the removal of FIFA's restricted funding status on the JFF and obtaining a tax compliance certificate in 2023. He's also credited with securing a clean audit opinion last year and bringing the Federation into a positive equity position by March. A game of two halves is how head coach of Trinidad and Tobago's senior men's football team, Dwight York, described his team's 3-2 defeat to Jamaica in their opening match of the Unity Cup. Despite conceding a late goal, York was proud of the team's second half display. Adrian Lazar brings us more in this story.
It was an exciting semi-final in the 2025 Unity Cup, which saw Caribbean neighbours Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica take over the GTEC Community Stadium in London, England. With the match seeming destined for a penalty shootout, Jamaica wound up scoring at the death, handing the Reggae Boys a 3-2 win. After the game, TNT head coach Dwight York expressed his delight in the character showed by his team.
What I can't take the positive, and there are positive in that defeat, as you mentioned, it's the fact that we are showing the character. You get, see players, the willingness to get back in it. It's something that we addressed. We spoke about that, being a reactive team rather than a proactive team. We tend to give teams head starts, certainly in my time and certainly now looking at it. And I've said to them inside, we can't afford to give good teams the head start and then decide to chase them down in the second half. And we did that, and that's very encouraging. But we've got to be able to manage team in a much more sensible way and not give away silly goals. We kind of shot ourselves in the foot in many occasions.
York, who is 6 months into the role, is happy where the team is at, but insisted that there is more to come.
I'm delighted in the 6 months that I've taken over the job from when I first stepped in, the progress that we have made and what we have managed to build on from what the previous manager has done. I think you can see that the team is progressing nicely. There's still a lot of hard work in there to be done. There's no two ways about that. I feel confident. I feel that the team is buying into the whole idea, my playing philosophy. I think that is a key part of why you see the improvement in the team going forward. And we continue to build.
With TNT playing the loser of Nigeria versus Ghana on Saturday, Coach York is aiming to end their Unity Cup campaign on a positive note.
And that's the news on PBCJ. Pleasant viewing.